Yes, I'm going to run.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I'll talk
Yes,
to you later.
sir. Okay.
Okay. Good morning. Let's see by show of hands, who here has seen a Bigfoot, heard of Bigfoot, seen Bigfoot prints, or knows somebody who has? Okay, if you look around, you'll see quite a few people. Well, I had my first Bigfoot sighting here in Halifax County. It was a little over 2 years ago. So what I'm going to do first, I'll tell you a little bit about myself and how I became interested in this. And then I'll tell you about my sighting and some things that led up to it. And then finally, I'll cover what's happened to me since. And can everybody hear me? Fine? Okay. So, how I became interested in it, when I was growing up in Virginia, I got a book from the library on Bigfoot. And then I became interested in Bigfoot, UFOs, ghosts. I would watch things on television about it, anything like that would interest me. But in the books, they left the impression that Bigfoot was probably like, if I saw one, it would be in California or Washington. It did have a little small section in some of those books, like Bigfoot seen in Florida or Tennessee. But I didn't really know that they were around here. So about 20 years ago, when I was living in Farmville, Virginia, that's when the internet first came out, and I was looking at some of these websites that people were reporting Bigfoot, and then I noticed there was Bigfoot sightings in Louisa County, which is right next to the county that I grew up in, Fluvanna County in Virginia. So I was like, there's Bigfoot there? And then after I moved from Farmville, Virginia to here, about 9-10 years ago, I looked on the website. Then there were sightings like around Farmville, Virginia, and Blackstone. And I was like, there was a Bigfoot there all the time? So, and I was here a few years. And then I started hearing about Bigfoot sightings around here. And then I looked it up on the web, and I saw that Steve had a museum here. And then I saw this story about this lady on television who had seen a Bigfoot. And just to let you know, when I heard all these things on television, I'm sure some people made mistakes, misidentified things. Maybe very few people were lying. But I said common sense would tell me that there is no way that thousands of people could be all making this up. That was what I thought. I didn't have proof. I was like 90-some% sure that they existed. And sometimes, and I went down to the museum, and I was thinking at first, before I even went to the museum, I was like, so a lady saw a Bigfoot one street over from the Paranormal Cryptozoology Museum. I was a little skeptical, thought it was like a publicity stunt or something. But then when I went and saw them, I knew these people weren't making this stuff up. So, and I would drive down in the morning because I thought Bigfoot came out at night, basically. If I would see one, I would see it in the dark. So I'd drive down the road sometime around there where that lady saw that Bigfoot, and nothing ever happened. So then maybe it was about a year or two later, I'll tell you about my sighting, but I'll tell you what happened. And I'm not saying this is why I had my sighting. There's really no way I could know for sure. It could have been a coincidence, and the Bigfoot was going to be there that day anyway. But what I'm going to tell you is absolutely true. And this is exactly what happened. It was about 2 years ago in August. And can you hear me without the microphone? Yes. Is that okay? Because it's easier for me to move. I'm going to kind of put this down. But about 2 years ago, I just got this idea in my head. I'm a school teacher, so I knew school was going to start back soon. So I said, why don't I go up to Medoc Mountain State Park? I've been to the ranger station, but I've never actually been in the woods, and I know people have seen them here. So and I'm not making this up, I had seen on television, I think it was on that show, Finding Bigfoot, where a guy was playing a Native American flute, and then his wife or whatever said that she saw a Bigfoot there. And I said, well, I could do that. It'll be a way that I won't get bored in the woods walking around for however long. So I decided, well, I'll just take the Native American flute in the woods and play a song, because I've heard people say that they played a harmonica and something responded or whatever, they saw a Bigfoot. So I thought I might have to come up here 200 times, and I'd probably find a footprint first, which I still haven't found. But it was in August. I was on this trail up here, down where the little pull-off is, And I just walked up the trail. It probably took me like 3 hours. And I stopped and I played some flute songs. I looked around the woods. Long story short, I didn't see any Bigfoot, but I did see some tree structures, like a lot of tree structures. These branches and stuff were stacked up. So I was going to take a picture, but my camera died. So I figured, well, I'd come back in 2 more weeks. So then I came back about, not 2 weeks, a week. It was about 6 days, maybe a week later. I came here for the second time, so I came here twice. Went up the same trail, and it started to rain a little bit, so the trail was getting flooded. And it didn't mean anything to me at the time, but when I was down there, I got the impression like, it felt like someone was watching me. So I just I remember I kept on looking. I put the hood on to keep the rain from my head, but I had to keep taking it off and looking around, but I didn't see anything. And I said, well, it's probably just my imagination. I'm out in the woods alone, so I just forgot all about it. So, and then my sighting, I don't know the exact date I came up here, so the sighting was either about 2 weeks later or about 3 weeks later. And it wasn't here, it was about 30 miles from here. It was on Monday, August 28, 2017. I was driving to work, and it was around 7 o'clock in the morning, which it was light, it had gotten light by that time. And it was over on, I think it's like called 125, about 30 minutes from here. And I've driven on this road 2 years before that. I didn't see anything like this, and I've driven on there 2 years since, and I still haven't seen it ever again. But you can imagine that you're me in my car looking this way. So I'll tell you my sighting in general, what I saw, and then I can go back and talk about the specific details. But as I was driving, I wasn't expecting anything. So all of a sudden I saw something move on the left side of the road, and there's this, just to show you, there's like a grass strip. It's about like 10 feet on each side of the road, and there's a swamp right here, and my car was coming down this way. And I'm guessing at first maybe I was like 140, 150 yards from it, and then at the closest point I might have been like 110, 100 yards from it. But I saw it on the left-hand side. I looked over, and I didn't know what it was at first. It was a dark figure, and it didn't look. It stepped right into the road, walked across the first lane, and it turned, and it walked diagonally up the road. And when it got to the side of the road, that's when it stopped, and it turned, looked at me, and then it just walked across. And one more time, and I was getting closer to it, it stopped over by the woods and turned and looked at me. And the whole sighting might have took, I don't know, 10, 11, 12 seconds. I don't know exactly. But I'll tell you some things I noticed. When I looked up and I saw it, first second or so, I wasn't thinking Bigfoot. I didn't know what it was. So I saw it, and then it stepped into the road, and as I watched it go across, I looked at his chest. I could see his chest was real thick, and you could see the tricep muscles. It wasn't anybody in clothing or anything. It was all one color. Basically, it was brown and had some blonde kind of up through the shoulder. And you could see like the tricep muscles in it. And the head wasn't up like this. The head was kind of like down like this, and you could see more of its back. And then when it got to the road over here, it stopped, and then it did this thing like this. And when it looked at me, I could see its mouth go like that, like it was surprised or something. And then it walked, and I could see when it was walking across, when it was walking, the head didn't bounce up and down. It was just like, I mean, I knew that, I'd seen that, but it was the same thing, just like people had said. So you could see it moving across, and it was very smooth the way it walked. It almost looked like if you didn't see the feet, you would think it was floating. That's how smooth it walked. And then when it got over here, I was probably maybe like 100 yards or so from it. And then it did like this, and the movement was different from a person. Like, it wasn't like kind of like this. It was like, it was smooth, but it was jerky at the same time, is the best way to describe it. It was like kind of like this, and when it stopped, it was real still. And then that's when I saw things about it. You could see it was standing with its knees bent, and its arms are hanging down like this. And I couldn't give you a height estimate, but I see people on the road waiting with their kids in the morning. So I know what like a 6-foot adult man would be like. The width was more impressive to me. Like, it was real wide at the shoulders, and I know it couldn't have been I knew it couldn't have been 6 feet tall, because it couldn't have been, if it was that wide and 6 feet tall, it would have looked blocky, and it had some height to it too. So I know it was taller, bigger than a full-grown man. But I could see like the delt, the shoulder muscles, the roundness to it. and it had a little reddish or brownish dark patch up through here, and I couldn't see the facial details, but I could see it was like thick up here around like the brow ridge or whatever. And at that point, and I slowed down the car, and then I was going to look over in the woods and see if I still saw it. But as I was driving up, I noticed something happened to me. It's weird stuff. But I noticed blackbirds will usually be in the road in the morning. I'll see them, and they'll fly out of the way when my car gets close to it. But I noticed when I got up to these blackbirds, there was like blackbirds in a circle, but they were just like barely moving. The car, I drove on past them, they didn't even move. Then there were some white cranes or whatever down in the swamp, 3 of them in a triangle shape. They didn't move. And then when I got to school, it just left a weird feeling. I don't know if it was because I was in shock of seeing it, or some people say they have infrasound that they release. I don't know, but my first thought when I saw it was like, oh my God, did me going in the woods and playing that flute actually make me see it? Well, I don't know, but that's the way it happened. And I went back to that same place in the afternoon and parked my car on the side of the road and tried to walk across, but a car was coming, so I had to stop. But I got about halfway across in 3 seconds, so it would have taken me 6 seconds to walk across that whole road straight, where this thing went up the road diagonally and crossed it probably maybe like 4 or 5 seconds. And I sent a little letter to the people in the mail with my phone number, telling them about what I saw. You know, if you want to I'll pay you to let me come out there and look for some tracks. But I never heard anything back, so they probably thought I was crazy. But so since then, I've probably been back here like maybe, I don't know, over the couple of years, I don't know, probably back here 70 or 80 times. But I've had some things happen, and I'm not saying this is Bigfoot, because none of the other times I saw anything, but I'll just tell you about them. They may or may not be Bigfoot related, but I know they're things that sometimes people say a Bigfoot will do. But one time I was playing the flute, because I like practicing anyway, whether I see a Bigfoot or not, that's fine. But I was in a certain spot down here, I was playing the flute, and I heard a branch crack to my right, and it sounded like it was 20 feet. So it kind of startled me, so I got up, but I didn't see anything. And then I heard 2 calls from down in the creek, which you couldn't really hear what it was exactly. But then after that, I kind of left. Then in August of that year, I was down here. The wind wasn't blowing on this day. I was playing the flute, and then all of a sudden I hear the tree crack. It was like crack, 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 boom, and then a tree fell right to my left. And it kind of scared me so bad that I just jumped up and put the backpack on and started walking fast and looking around. And I said, well, okay, maybe a tree just happened to fall in the woods on that day. And then I heard it again, crack, 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 boom. And I was almost up here. It was like a second tree came down and crashed. And since then, I haven't really, most of the time I come up here, I don't see or hear anything out of the ordinary. But about like 3 weeks ago, I came here real early at 8, and I was down by this little bench at the end of this creek here. Then I heard something in the bushes, like crackling, and then a rock came and landed in the creek down here. And I started to run at first, but I calmed myself down. I sat down, and I just played the flute, kind of looked around, just see what would happen. I mean, I heard a little bit of crunching, but that's about it. And then on the way home, I said, I'm gonna go over here, because somebody had, this lady here, Lou, had showed me where there were some tree structures over here at the park as you come in. So I went over there, I was going to take some pictures of them, and I didn't have my phone on at this time. Now I've got a camera like she has, so that I won't miss anything. But I heard the 2 whoops, like it went whoop, and it was, you could tell it was like 2 or 3 miles away probably. It did it twice by the time I turned my phone on, then it had stopped. So that's basically what happened. And does anyone have need any clarification? Does anyone have any questions or anything? Yes, sir.
Was it quiet when the Bigfoot was around?
Okay, you mean talking about when my sighting?
Yes.
Well, I had my windows up, but here's the thing. This is the best way to describe it. When I saw it, it was like it sucked my complete attention to the Bigfoot. Like, it was almost like I was hypnotized, like I was kind of in a trance or something. Because like, there was no way I could have noticed all those details. in like 10 or 11 seconds, because I've been telling people, they're like, you noticed all those details? I'm like, yeah. It's like my senses just became hyper. So it wasn't really quite, I mean, I noticed I heard some, I remember, and I'd forgotten about it. My short-term memory had gone or something, because I didn't know it had stopped twice until I thought about it. I was like, wait a minute, it stopped twice. But I remember some kind of vibration or something when it was right before it, or when I saw it, some kind of like boom sound or something. But otherwise, as far as quiet, I don't know about the sound, but I noticed that it sucked my complete attention to it when I saw it. But basically, any others? All right, okay, thank you. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, yes.
People look at this thing differently. Everybody's got an opinion. Do you think playing the flute puts you into an altered state of consciousness that allows you to see something like that, or call it out of the ether or whatever? Ether or
I don't rule anything out.
Yeah.
I know some people say Bigfoot they're completely physical and they're just hiding in the woods. And then I know some people say, oh, they come from another dimension or they come from a UFOs. I really can't comment on that because I don't have any evidence. However, I will say I've studied UFO type stuff, and just like Bigfoot, when I think some of those people, I know they're telling the truth. Same thing with the UFOs. There are some small amount of UFO sightings that involve something like a Bigfoot, and especially in like Pennsylvania in the 70s. There's some sightings of Bigfoot carrying a globe of light or things like that. And I noticed that around here, some people have seen lights or something in the woods. So I'm at least of the possibility that at least some Bigfoot may be an alien or something like that. I don't know if all, I mean, there may be something that's just in the woods, but it's kind of, I'm kind of skeptical that there's something in the woods that can hide that just in the woods and you don't find a body and you don't see it all the time. So I really don't know. Possible. Any others? Yes.
The feeling that you said you had, how long did that last?
Oh, well, I think it was mostly during the actual encounter. It was just like my senses just became like hyper and like noticed everything about it. And then like it was kind of like when I got to work, I was like, it probably in the after. I mean, the feeling was probably much gone after, because when I drove up to it, it was pretty much gone. Like, 'cause I looked in the woods, I looked over to the side and I didn't see anything at that point. But I mean, like it had some kind of effect on my like short-term memory or something. Because I don't know if that's because it has infrasound or if that's just because I was in shock of seeing it. So that's any others? Yes.
So like Bigfoot can be spotted anywhere in the world, pretty much, in any woods or in a forest or anything like that.
Pretty much, yes.
So do you think like there's different Bigfoots around the world, or is there just one?
Oh, like a species, like yeah, because some people see three of them, four at one time, or like see a Bigfoot and its mate or something like that. And there's actually, like some people say, there's 4 different kinds. There's a type 1, a type 2. A type 3 Bigfoot has a snout, which I know the kind I saw wasn't that. And there's a type 4, it's more like a human or something. So if that's true, the type that I saw, it had characteristics of kind of like of the type 1 or the type 2. So I really don't know. I just know the Bigfoot I saw was just like the thing in the Patterson-Gimlin film, except it was lighter color. It had a better body to it. It was tapered up, and the hair was lighter, and it was a male, and the head was not as pointy as the Bigfoot in the Patterson-Gimlin film. It was more rounded shape. But yeah. Yes.
The time that you heard the wolves, what time of day was it?
Oh, it was like around 9 o'clock. Yeah, that was right up here. Yes. Any more?
In the morning or at night?
In the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, it was light out. Okay. All right, well, thank you.